Welcome back to the Pastor Study here at St. John the Apostle, Pastor Marc's office for this week's devotional. Always honored to have you with us. I enjoy these times. Hope they're meaningful to you. And I want to confess that a little bit this summer I've had a little bit of a heavy heart as somebody that's been a hero of mine has been through one of life's very difficult chapters. Not anybody you would know, you might know of him. He's a pastor in another part of the country. I have met him. I've been with he and his wife. They wouldn't know me, but a prolific writer, profound theologian. And God, in one of those crazy situations, after a long time ministry in a very significant parish, where doubt and suspicion arose. And in a season like we've been in where there's been a lot of tension anyway over the coronavirus, the political circus, the lockdown, all of the different takes on the coronavirus, people out of work, it's just not a real good season to have a little Peyton place in your church. And that's what happened. And as he always has during his career, he took the high road. He admitted his part of the problem, even which is very understandable, at least from my take, and agreed to step down for the good of the church. And recently I watched his farewell sermon, which he could not do in front of his congregation because of the same thing we're facing, the shelter at home and limits of gatherings, and he did it online, and he handled himself with incredible grace and class. Faith and spirituality, as he has for all the years that I have been aware of him. And as he said farewell to his congregation and thanked them graciously for all the great things they'd accomplished in the years they had together, he went back to one of his spiritual mentors and heroes. And I have his picture up here on the screen behind me. That is Dallas Willard. He's been a great philosophical leader in our culture that shared his talents in spiritual ways, that he became a pastoral presence without ever being a pastor per se. Passed away in 2013. That's a picture of him speaking in a church. His wisdom, his spirituality, his psychology, all made him such a remarkable guy. And my hero who was stepping down quoted him in that farewell sermon, quoting Dallas Willard saying, "Circumstances and other people are not in control of your character or the person that you will become." Now let that quote settle in you just a minute. Think of how easy it is to say, well, under the circumstances, we're doing the best we can. Coronavirus, can't come to church, limited to online stuff. Somebody's upset in the church, creating a big stinking problem. You've had a fire, you've had a flood, been a key tragic loss or death under the circumstances. Dallas Willard would answer that saying, what are you doing under those circumstances? You're a child of God. You are under the grace and the love, the power of the Almighty. Don't get under your circumstances. That's so well put. Let me repeat the quote again. Circumstances and other people are not in control of your character or the person you will become. How often I have lived under the circumstances. Marriage, ministry, church, other things. How easy it is to forget this, or how old was I before I first began to learn it. Think of Romans chapter 8. Paul is writing at the crescendo of the great correspondence with the church at Rome. What shall we then say to this? If God is for us, then who is against us? You see, it's so very true. Our lives are not defined by our circumstances, but rather how those circumstances combine with the workings of the Holy Spirit to define and refine and grow and develop who we are in terms of a person and in terms of our Christian spiritual character? Can I look back and see the experiences of my life, both good and especially the difficult, as defining and refining to make me a better man? Or were they just defeats and failures that leave me whining and saying, life handed me a raw deal and I never got to have and experience what I wanted? It's the key questions that all of us have to ask ourselves in life, because our life is not a circumstance, nor is it a set of defining circumstances. Our life is a story that is constantly being shared and developed and told. And when we reach the end of this life, and flesh shall fail, and our spirit is taken and resurrected, the measure of our lives won't be the accomplishments or the difficult circumstances or the adversity or our own failures. It will be defined by our character, our values, our love, our compassion, our care for others, the influence that we receive, that we share, and all the great qualities of Christ. And I'm going to watch the man who has been a hero to me, just a couple of years older than I am, and I'm not about to be honest with you about how old I am here today. I'm going to watch, because I think by the grace of God, he's going to land on his feet and have a great story to tell and be an even greater influence on the lives of many as he has been in mine. So think with me today about this idea of God's favor. If God is for us, who is against us? Same guy Paul writes that God will use all things for good for those who trust him. So let's quit being defined by our challenges and our circumstances and, yes, our own failings, and we've all got more than we'll ever own. But let's let God's rich creative grace use those to define and refine us and develop our character and deepen us where we become a beacon of honesty, willing to take responsibility, willing to admit our shortcomings, willing to tell our story of when we failed or when others failed us, to be an instrument of God that inspires and encourages others who may not be in a position to understand what Dallas Willard said many years ago, and I'll repeat it again. Circumstances and other people are not in control of your character or the person you will become. The other side of that is the Almighty, the God of Jesus Christ, is in charge. Surrender to that and watch life become as we've never yet known it. Thanks for tuning in this week. See you next time.